There's a feeling I get before every broadcast. There's nothing in this world I enjoy more than entering the arena and being awakened by the sound of all the fans. But before I go, there are some preparations I need to make in order to make sure I'm just ready for that show. It all starts with the hair. Before every game, I have to make sure it behaves itself for the camera. After all, you're not as lucky to wear a helmet like all the other players on the ice. After double checking I've brought my small notepad and a handful of my favorite blue Bic pens, it's time to suit up and head over to the arena. The moment I enter, I smell fried food and beer. That's when I know I've arrived. One quick jog up the stairs, and I'm at work. The gondola, the best view in the house. Right about now, the players are making their way onto the ice to begin their warm-up. That initial crunch I hear when the players dig into the freshly surfaced ice with their skates always made me feel at home. Once I sit down and get ready for work, I start to wonder. I imagine what it would be like to lace up a pair of skates instead of my dress shoes. How different it would feel to slip on shoulder pads instead of a suit jacket, or bring a duffel bag to work instead of a briefcase. I sit down in the dressing room to get ready for the game. It stinks of body odor and sweat, but I never mind. The only thing on my mind is going out on the ice and putting on a show for the thousands of people that have packed the bleachers to see me perform. The LCD clock above the door has run out. That's signaling my team to get onto the ice. It's so uplifting to hear the roar of the crowd as I skate out and live my dream. As soon as we get set to face off, I'm suddenly brought right back to reality. My producer, he's signaling me to begin the broadcast from the truck outside. I let out a sigh, remembering the dream that used to consume me. I wasn't born to a rich family. We weren't poor by any standard, but it's not like we were up to date with any kind of technology. When it came down to hockey, I started with a plastic hockey stick and not even a net to practice on. I used to take shots in my driveway on the metal garage door we had. My parents hated hearing every single bang and whip and crack that I would smash onto that door. But they also never told me to stop either. So I got a lot of practice in. When I got older, I eventually got myself a wooden hockey stick. I love that stick. I still have it to this day. I also got some hand-me-down gloves from my father. And you know, they weren't the best quality, but it really made me feel like one of those hockey players I dreamed about being when I was a kid. The funny thing about getting older is you don't really know the moment you start to pay attention to the world around you. So one day it kind of happens. And for me, I know exactly when that happened for me. I was sitting there at lunch with a couple of my friends at school, and we were talking about hockey, the Leaf game from last night and our favorite players. And just as I was ready to get a bite out of my tuna sandwich, I remember hearing them talk behind my back about how they were going into the Pee Wee leagues and signing up for their seasons. And then I thought to myself, I don't play hockey, but I practice every day. Why is it that I'm not practicing to impress anybody? Why am I not playing to be on a lineup? And that's when it hit me, and I knew the only way I was going to get the answer to that was to talk to my parents. So that night I decided to ask them at dinner time. I didn't know exactly how to ask them, so I sat there for a couple of moments thinking about it. I remember the old refrigerator in the back. It used to make a lot of noise. It was an old refrigerator. And I used to try to predict when those little interruptions would happen. Eventually it gets a little boring, so I focused my attention after that to the short leg on our old beat-up table. I'd fiddle around with it because then the table would shake a little. Of course, I stopped the moment my mom got a little upset at me, so at that moment I figured now or never. I said, can I ask you guys a question? And obviously they were both ready to listen. When I asked them, I could see there was trouble in their eyes because they didn't want to tell me what they had to say. And I knew by looking at their reaction that I wasn't going to enjoy what I was going to hear. They explained to me that they couldn't afford to put me in hockey, keeping up with travel costs and the cost of equipment because I was a growing boy. To make a long story short, we didn't have enough money to keep me in hockey. So naturally, I wasn't happy with this answer, and I probably wasn't very happy with my parents for the rest of that night. Back in the gondola, I'm watching all the players as they skate onto the ice, getting their warm-up started, ready to start the game, and the red broadcast light comes on. That's always been my cue to start what I love doing. Hello, hockey fans. Welcome to the Campus Ice Center. I'm your host, Joe Catrona, for tonight's hockey matchup. When I was a kid, I wanted nothing more than this. After that conversation with my parents, I knew right then and there my real dream, maybe not necessarily was to play hockey. I just wanted to be involved in that game any way I possibly could. Even to this day, I still wish I could be one of those hockey players on the ice. But I enjoy what I do. Working in the gondola as a commentator is one of the best things I've ever done with my life, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And unlike most of my friends, I never did have to give up on my dream. And that'll do it for us tonight. For the UYT Ridgebacks, I'm Joe Catrona.